Hello from the National Weather Service in Missoula. This is your planning briefing for Sunday, December 31st. Quick look at the weather threat matrix. We do have a weak system passing along the Canadian border later today, being Sunday into early Monday morning. A possibility for some light snow on the passes across northwest Montana. We then transition to a stratus and valley fog situation through the middle of this week. And then after that, Thursday, perhaps some light snow on the passes, and then later on the day, Friday the 5th, we begin to change over to a colder and wetter pattern. So just talking about the system for today into tonight, very light precipitation. Here's a look at the 24-hour probabilities of 1 inch or greater of snowfall. It's only 20 to 30% for the passes in northwest Montana. There's also a slight probability for very light freezing rain in the valleys. So that's something to keep in mind. It shouldn't be a problem during the daytime hours, but once we get to sunset or just thereafter, it could be a few slick spots in the valleys. We had talked about the fog, something we've talked about quite a bit this winter, but mostly Monday through Wednesday for those fog concerns. Perhaps some slick spots with some freezing fog, something to keep in mind. This here is a look at the probability of Arctic air coming over the divide January 6th through the 9th. Now it may just bank against the divide and then come over another day. Oftentimes that's the case where it's one or two pushes of Arctic air, but during this period of time, this upcoming weekend into early the following week, we have about a 70% probability for the northwest Montana valleys and along the divide. 50-60% probability for the west central Montana valleys, and then about 10 to 20% for those lower elevations of north central Idaho. And once again, this graphic's running from later Saturday the 6th all the way through Tuesday, the morning of Tuesday the 9th. To put that in a little more context, wanted to look at Sunday, January 7th, the probability of max temperatures less than 30 degrees. And you'll see 70 to 90% for much of the valleys of western Montana, including Limhi County. More like 20 to 40% probability for those lower elevations of north central Idaho. Now keep in mind, this time of year, the normal high temperatures are between 30 and 32 degrees for the valleys, most of the valleys of western Montana, and then also like the Grangeville area. Now to go a little bit cooler, for the same date, Sunday the 7th, probability of a max temperatures less than 25 degrees. It's more like 50 to 70% for western Montana valleys and Limhi County, 10 to 30% for those far northwest Montana valleys, and near 0% for those lower elevations of north central Idaho. So definitely looking to be fairly cool for this time of year, if not cold. It just depends on how much of that Arctic air does come over the divide, assuming it does. So let's see. Now, kind of the other side of the coin, looking at the snow amount probabilities. So these are 3-day snowfall totals ending on Monday the 8th. So the lower end amounts, generally less than an inch for most valleys. On the terrain, including the passes, 5 to 10 inches. The higher end, 1 to 2 inches for many of the valleys. If we do get the Arctic air into at least northwest Montana, 3, 4, 5 inches of snow would be fairly likely with an overrunning scenario. In the mountains, including the passes, 10 to 20 inches of snow. So once again, 3-day total, higher end amount. Looking at probabilities of certain thresholds, so an inch or greater for the same 3-day period. Valleys in northwest Montana in the 70-80% range, similar for the Camas Prairie, lower elevations of north central Idaho. The lowest probabilities being like the Missoula Bitterroot Valley, anywhere from 30-40%. If you go up to 4 inches, you can see a lot of the valleys are fairly low amounts, but you do see a reflection, once again, of that potential for several inches of snow, like in the Flathead Valley and some of these northwest Montana valleys. Let's see, 3-day total once again for 6 inches or greater on the left-hand side, or 8 inches or greater on the right-hand side. One thing that still sticks out is fairly high probability for the passes in the terrain to get plowable snow, as far as roadways for the passes. So something to keep in mind there. And then looking even further ahead into next week, there's still more possibilities. It really depends on how far the Arctic air gets into the area, or if it does. And if we have moisture overrunning it, we could certainly have additional precipitation events the middle and latter part of that following week. So definitely changes from what we've seen most of this winter. Our next scheduled briefing will be Thursday, January 4th. If you have any questions, please get a hold of us. You have a good day.